Rosicrucians or the Rosicrucian belief system?
The belief that binds all Rosicrucians is that within them is the very consciousness of God. There is only one God, and God is within all of us, ready to aid us at all times. Once we realize that truth, then we remain connected. If we fail to realize that truth, we don't permit that consciousness to be active in our lives.
What name would you give the Supreme Force, and how would you describe that force?
First of all, God is infinite, and one cannot define God. God is everywhere, and God is really all that there is, infusing and manifesting in multiple ways through all of its creations, because it created all. And we refer to that God within us as the Master within. And the Master within each of us are one with God and is God, the God within.
And how does a person access that relationship?
First of all, to realize that it exists. Very important. Then, through meditation and with breathing, because breathing also is a function of God, coming in to the body, refreshing the body, dispensing more than oxygen to every cell, functioning and intelligence, telling each cell how to function, each organ how to function. Through meditation and the desire, the intention, I want to commune with my Master within, then be silent and be still, continuing to breathe deeply in and deeply out, and realizing there is this profound, invisible intelligence there, and just surrender to it. And the more often you do this, the more you develop a relationship with that Master within. The intention of every Rosicrucian is to develop a relationship, a certainty that it exists, so that within a second it can go there for guidance.
Would you say that that relationship is unique to each individual, and how would you describe that?
That relationship is unique to each individual, depending upon their realization of it, their certainty of it, how strongly they develop that relationship and depend upon it. You must know with certainty that it exists, and that is a process. That is a process. It doesn't come overnight. And we don't know what intelligence, what understanding of that relationship you reincarnated with. So in each of us, there is an expression of the work that we have done in other lives in reference to that relationship. And some of us have developed strong relationships, and we come here seeking again for that relationship. Some a little slow in learning, a little slow in connecting to it, and start learning through the processes of breathing, realizing it does exist. It's invisible, but the invisible world is the most important world. And slowly, with meditation and silence, silence is so profound. It is in silence and stillness and in surrender that the God energies program, if I can use that word, program us into guidance and into wisdom.
So what is the force that acts on human awareness that actually separates it from that link?
What is the force?
Why is it that human awareness has gotten so far from the very basic core of our being?
There is a part in all of us we call the human consciousness, the little self, that really wants to direct us and really want to tell us that it is us. And we sometimes call it the ego. There are various names for it. And this is in all of us. And to what extent we have control of it and we permit our higher self to function depend upon the expression in one's personality and one's development. But if we are aware that there is this negative, small self that's always active, insidious, and we know when it appears, and we attempt to transform it. So the so-called ego is given to us in order for us to grow, and we can transform its attributes into attributes of the soul.
That brings me to the next question, which is, so what is the ultimate accomplishment of human awareness? What is our role in evolution?
If I may just say it this way, the plan of evolution is to love and to increase our skills in loving, so that through evolution we become closer and closer and closer to God, expressing the attributes of God increasingly with work and with service. Service to humankind is so important. We transform our intention of receiving for the self alone. You see, that's a great work of every Rosicrucian. Transform that into receiving for the sake of sharing. Receiving for the sake of sharing. Because receiving for the self alone is catering to that small self that has no intention of evolving. Every intention of convincing you that it is you, when it is not you. The real you is that inner self, that soul within you that is evolving. And we call that evolving soul the soul personality. When we refer to soul, we are referring to the very consciousness of God, one soul, and that soul infuses all. Your ability to understand and express that soul, we call your individual soul personality.
So, when you mention love, love is one of those words that everybody throws around, but really the meaning has been sort of so washed out. How would you describe what love is? Because I know that love is one of those words like God that most people get turned off by because it's become there's a cynical connotation to it even. How would you describe it? What your expression of love is?
My advice would be not try to define love, but to grow into it, attune to it, and expand your understanding of it. And realize that this love within you is a part of the God consciousness. It is the consciousness of God. Now, if I realize that, then I realize that this consciousness of God within you is the same consciousness of God that is within me. And that consciousness in itself urges me to be concerned about the well-being of all that infuses it. So that is love. When I become concerned with your well-being, I am loving you. When I realize that the God within you is the God within me, I am loving you. And you will feel something different. Now, when you begin to manifest that love, it is an energy. It is a feeling that is transmitted, because really, when you begin to transmit love, you are transmitting the God consciousness, which can manifest in many ways as kindness, patience, understanding of the individual, understanding of the condition. And this love is light itself. So if I'm loving, the capacity for me to love, I must love everyone. Now, what do I mean by everyone? I'm loving that God energy within you, not your appearance, not the way you act, but know with certainty within you is that beautiful, caring consciousness of God, and you are a lighted being. I don't care how you express it. I'm not going to focus on your appearances. And when I do that, when I acknowledge the light and love within you, because if you're alive, you're breathing, God is within you. And that is which I admire, and that is which I love. I'm loving you. And now, if I can expand that gradually in my consciousness, that every living being has that within them, then I am learning to progressively love everybody. And I wish for their well-being. And when I wish for that well-being, I'm wishing for the well-being of myself. That is love.
Do you still have moments of conflict?
Oh, yes. The little self is always with us. And it's designed. Now, mind you, this ego purpose was created by God, you know. God created all. Is to act as a tool for us to evolve. We see it and we know that it is not in harmony with our God self. So we seek to transform it. If we find ourselves critical, we know that is not an attribute of the higher self. We know that's an attribute of the little self, the ego, the selfish self. So we decide, we make a choice. I'm going to slowly transform that. I'm going to hate less and less, and I am going to pray for guidance, teach me how to do this. I need light. I need your help to understand, why am I hating? Now, once you get that infusion, that's the best word that I know, infusion of intelligence, then you can slowly eliminate this automatic hating of people, criticizing of people. So the purpose of that little self is to act as a tool. If you're running a marathon, training for it, and you run across a hill, now you can say to yourself, oh, there is that hill again. I'm going to go around it. Or you can say, oh, there is that hill, and I know if I climb over that hill, I will grow stronger and stronger and stronger. See? So, your perspective of life changes. When you have challenges, you know, oh, now let me find the right spiritual tool to deal with that without violating any of the laws of the universe. Let me find the right tool to deal with that challenge. And you work at it. That's work. That's work. And slowly and slowly and slowly you transmute it.
So in that moment of conflict, or in that moment where you're having that conflict of whether I should go around or go up that hill, what do you do personally? How do you shift the balance towards the end that's a little bit harder, that's the work? Because in a way it's the dichotomy that we all are, because that's where we use the little self to spur us.
That's right. So, if you spend your time, a certain amount of time, developing a relationship with the Master within. Now the Master within is all-knowing. It knows everything you've ever done, all of your incarnation, knows why that experience is presenting itself to you, and knows exactly what you need to do to overcome it. So you go within and ask with honesty and surrender for guidance. Why? Tell me about this experience. Give me understanding of it. Give me understanding of this person. Guide me through this experience, because I know it is for my highest good. I know that. Although I can't see it. That's honesty. I can't see it, but I know you know. Guide me through it. Now here, if you notice, you will begin to identify with the higher self, with the Master within, and not identify with the little self. And that, if you notice, when you are in that conflict, that the tendency to want to identify with that human self, that human selfishness, you know, and you want to gradually change your identity. I want to identify, and this is a prayer, a silent prayer that you formulate. I really want to learn to identify with you, O God within. Teach me how. Give me strength. Give me courage. Prayer is a very powerful way of relinquishing expression of the little self and gaining more power to express the God within you.
So prayer is like a chanting meditation, ultimately, isn't it?
That's a form, but you can pray in any way. For instance, if you visualize yourself being happy and actually feel how it feels to be happy, that's a prayer. That's a prayer. Or you can look in a book and find a prayer. if you attune to the words and the energy behind those written words, that's a prayer. You can pray for anything.
See, that's another word that a lot of people have a stigma with, prayer. And I think that's why I wanted you to say that, because it's more than what people think it is. Just as love is more than what people think it is, God is more than what people think it is.
Sure.
That people who practice it know what it is, but to say the word puts a lot of people off.
But you know, never hold the thought that if I say prayer, I'm going to put somebody off. Oh, no. I hold the thought that they will understand not the word, but the consciousness which flows through the words. And they will understand a higher meaning of prayer. I never would say, oh, you know, I use the word God. You know, that creates a flag. But if they're listening, I am speaking from my higher self to them. And that's an energy that flows to their higher self. It bypasses all this analytical mind, you see? And they will understand, oh, he's talking about something different when he used God. And I use the word creator sometimes just to bypass that analytical mind. I use the word universe sometimes. But never, always have in your consciousness, they're going to get the real meaning of God. You see, because it's no anthropomorphic being. You don't start criticizing their religion and understanding, but you just express yours. Express yours. And don't express it with words only. Express it with the very consciousness of where you stand. And that is within the center of the Master within. And you ask the Master within, you talk for me. You communicate for me. And if that occurs, that Master within is going to communicate with the Master within you and bypass this, this human analytical, critical mind. Just bypass it. An individual feels something different. So we should learn to permit the Master within to talk for us and to hear for us. With our little human ears, boy, we hear things and get all confused. But if you are surrendering to your true self, hear for me. As I'm carrying on this conversation, you hear for me. You see for me. Okay? That's very, very important. That means you are identifying now. You are identifying now with that God consciousness within you. Slowly you are identifying, and you are surrendering. You are surrendering this false self. Now the false self is going to always want to come in and give you advice. But if you recognize its voice, you know who is at the microphone.
So, along the lines of what you were saying there, you obviously believe that we return, our spirit returns. So, what is the ultimate evolution for us? What are we here learning, and what is our? I don't know if you have a Messiah in your belief system, which supposedly is one with God.
What?
A Messiah type of figure. Are we all Christ figures, all Buddha figures? Is that what our ultimate goal of our spirit is, each individual?
Now, when you say figure, you're talking about an anthropomorphic form.
I'm talking about maybe what we're trying to evolve our awareness into as individuals.
Yes. What the inner self, the soul is trying to evolve the soul personality into, is to becoming more and more, assuming more of the attributes of God until it becomes one with God. Still individualized, but having the very consciousness of God. That's a master. That's the Christ. You see? So that's the purpose of us working, because within us there is that burning desire. I want to be increasingly more like my Creator. Increasingly, I'm working. And my Creator is a giving Creator. It shares of itself. And as I evolve and come back and choose to come back, because that burning desire is more intense in the cosmic realm than it is here. I want to come back and I want to go through those experiences which will give me this wisdom so that I can grow stronger and move forward to become like my Creator. That's the purpose.
It's an interesting paradox, isn't it? Dichotomy that what you say, that I want to become like my Creator.
Yes.
It's like saying I and Creator in the same sentence doesn't make sense, and yet.
Yes, and you will say that eventually I and the Creator are one. You see? When you have reintegrated with the Creator and I are one. God and I are one.
So what's your explanation for why the world is so at odds with itself? Why is it that it seems to be teetering more towards ignorance and oblivion as opposed to, or is there forces that are for each force that goes into the negativity, for lack of a better term, there's a negative force into the positive? How do you see times, the present times, in context of our awareness?
Well, I see beyond the appearances, and that's a key word for everything. I see beyond appearances, and I see many focuses of light, many human beings contributing to the light of the world and keeping it in the balance that it is, and seeking to remove pain, suffering, and chaos that we individually and collectively have created. We are responsible for everything that happens to us because the law of cause and effect is continuously operating. So I am very optimistic about humanity. And I envision humanity now becoming infused with a higher intelligence. I'm visualizing the greed that I'm aware of in humanity being transformed. Now, how, if I send into that area light, now what do I mean by light? I mean the very consciousness of God, and that's what light is. If I send into that area, into that condition, light, that light will dispense what is needed. Now, if we set into motion cause and effect, that means that if we set into motion a cause, that we are going to experience an effect. Now, that is no punishment. It is an indication that this is what you created. And you would eventually say, well, I'm going to stop creating that. Even in your personal life, your family life, if you have a thought about a person in your family, hate him, no good, and then this person starts really manifesting that, then you say, gee, look what I did. That's my creation. Then you start sending that person love. Not your love, but asking the Creator to send its love through you to that person. Now that love is unconditional. Now if you start sending your love, it's conditional. You see? Now when you're able to realize that true love always come from the Creator. And I want to channelize that to that person. You will see a miracle happen. That person will begin expressing a different personality, and you say, well, look what I did. Look what I did. I set into motion a cause which was love. And that love manifested as probably one of your best friends.
So almost what you're saying is that love is our alignment, and our intention is how we manifest it.
How we manifest
so
it.
we're the conduit, and we manifest
Right.
it through our.
And slowly, it's a process now. It's a process, and you slowly increase your capacity to love. In fact, I would say that one of the purposes of life is to increase our capacity to love. You see, now, if you study many people, they love because they are getting love. You love me, I'll love you, which is a very low form of love, you see. But when someone is not your friend, and you have developed the capacity to love them, or you have moved towards the Creator.
You could be even just loving this room. You could be loving an object, or loving life, right? It's just the feeling of connection. Is that what it is?
And yes, you are loving the life and consciousness of God. And where is life and consciousness of God? Where is it? Everywhere. I can love a plant. I can meditate upon a plant, realizing that that plant is alive, and if it is alive, it is connected with God. And as I meditate upon that plant, my consciousness expands and expands and expands, because that is the avenue into all of life. But the key is to recognize and to see the very consciousness of God, the beauty. Let's use that word for a while, the beauty in everything. That's why I said I'm very optimistic about humanity. I see the light in them. They may not be expressing it, but I see it, and the more that I see it, the more it will manifest.
So in the Rosicrucian practices, by coming together, what practices do you do to hone your spirits, to gain more access, to expand your ability to love? What are the practices that you do?
Well, one, first of all, should bring into a gathering, Rosicrucian temple, an acute consciousness of God, not only within themselves, but within everyone there. And they began to silently petition for the Creator to come down, if you want to say it, using the law of attraction. With that, we attract the higher vibratory energies to come down and bathe us, infuse us, so that we began to vibrate at a higher level. Everything in the universe is energy, right? Everything in the universe is energy. Lower energy, vibrating very low, and the higher vibrations are spiritual, creative, God-like. Now, when a Rosicrucian is in a gathering, they have that focus on the God consciousness and invoke, if I may use that word, that consciousness through symbolism. And symbolism, it can be very, very powerful. You see? And in that symbolism, in those rituals, comes strength. And most important, in those rituals are created a vibration that goes out into the world. Because one of the functions, one of the purposes is to spread light and peace and comfort into the world. It's just not together just for the group. It is to become a focal point of light, focal point of love, that it goes out to all humanity. And it's generated, I might say. The Rosicrucian group is a generator of higher godlike energies that goes out.
So, what is the purpose for death in our lives? What does death represent to us? If we are God, if we are eternal, ultimately, why is there death in our lives?
There's no death. Okay? There is no death. You have always been a spiritual being, always. And when you reincarnate, that being that you have been developing comes down and enters a body, an instrument, and that instrument is born. Okay? It's born. You are not born. You already exist. You come down and you occupy a body that is born. And you call it you. I'm calling it Lonnie. Okay? But as I grow into an understanding of that which lies behind the body and existed far before the body existed and is eternal. So when I say there is no death, I'm speaking about that inner eternal spirit that's ever growing and becoming. Okay? Now, the vessel that I occupied in order to carry on work in this world of relationships will deteriorate and die. Now there are some groups that say that once we have really refined and committed and understand that which lies behind the body, we will move closer and closer to immortality. You know, in the ancient teachings, people live 100, 200, 300 years because it is interpreted that they were closer to God. You see. But what really dies is that costume that you assume, that vehicle that you assume, but more that you understand that the real you, the you that you are slowly getting to understand, slowly bring it into your consciousness, its existence, you will know that you will never die. You will always exist. And when you leave the body, which is a very important instrument, when you leave the body, you go into the ethers and continue to learn under the direction of God.
Would you say that the small self dies with the body?
Oh, yeah.
So in a way, death is almost the pressure on us. Some cultures, for instance, some native shaman cultures, suggest that death is our only advisor. It's the perspective that always makes us aware of what's really important, because it is our limitation. Would you say that pressure of our mortality is what we use to spur our consciousness?
Well, personally, I wouldn't. But I would say our consciousness should always be first the spirit within, the true energies of God that's within us. Okay, that should be our motives. Now, we should have respect for the physical body. We should, because the physical body allows us to express on this plane and learn. It's like a car. It carries us and moves us to make contact with people who can deliver to us a lesson. Okay? So, the first things first is what? Your God, your essence, the essence of who you are. Always first. Nothing should violate that. Nothing should violate your God-like nature. And that's why you gradually transform anything that is not God-like. You gradually transform it through prayer, through work, and until you don't accept it. Before you go into any position, you say to yourself, well, if this does not move me closer to my God, I don't want it. It's first. That comes first. My inner essence comes first. Because always the little self wants various types of pleasures that are not consistent with the purpose that you have now adopted and to which you have surrendered. But eventually you will surrender to this soul within. Because you know, if the soul guides you, and if the soul expresses its wisdom through you, and your centers are open to that you will move in the right direction. And that's why meditation is so important. If you get off balance, go in and connect. Always have a realization that I am connected to my source. I plug in every day, every morning to my source. If you take the plug away, you're on your own.
So what would you say is taking place when you're meditating? What is taking place within your awareness? What is happening?
I'm letting go and let the God energy in with me, in me.
What are you letting go?
Huh?
What are you letting go?
Letting go myself, my human self, my little self that I've been attached to. I'm detaching. I may use that word. I'm detaching from anything that I personally possess. And I am attaching to the cosmic. You see? So in meditation, I'm surrendering to these higher sacred energies, these energies that will guide me and teach me and permit me to increase in wisdom and to move closer and closer to my Creator. That's what I'm doing in meditation. That's why I meditate. I meditate to commune and to increase my connection. Then it tells me what to do. What I mean by it, my essence then takes command rather than my analytical mind, my human mind. Eventually, the human intellect becomes an instrument through which the higher energies flow.
Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.